Hi, I'm Chef Janet, and I'm a gluten-free chef. That title, the best oatmeal chocolate chip cookies you will ever eat. I know, it sounds so confident, but I think after you get your first bite of these cookies, you might feel the same way. Before we get started, I want to talk about some of the ingredients that I like to use in gluten-free baking. And the first one is the gluten-free flour blend. I use my own flour blend, but you can use any gluten-free flour blend that doesn't have xanthan gum, baking soda, or baking powder in it. King Arthur flour makes a really good multi-purpose flour blend that will do the trick in this recipe. The next one is coconut sugar. Now don't worry, it doesn't taste like coconut. It actually comes from the nectar of the flower on the coconut tree, and it gives gluten-free cookies this intense caramel flavor that I think you will love. Give it a try anywhere that you use brown sugar. Next is the vanilla extract. Now don't use any of that imitation vanilla extract. Use real, pure vanilla. You can use alcohol-free vanilla, you can use vanilla bean paste, or any good vanilla extract. Last is the chocolate chips. Now, whichever kind of chocolate chip you like, whether it's bittersweet, semi-sweet, milk chocolate, even white chocolate, use any one of those. Just be sure it's a good quality one and they'll make your cookies shine. This recipe. So this recipe came from my friend Anne, and she makes these in a traditional gluten-filled version that people beg her to make. She makes them by the dozens, and people eat them as fast as she can make them. I was extremely jealous of all those gluten eaters enjoying Anne's cookies, and she was nice enough to give me the recipe. I was able to convert it to gluten-free with some pretty great results. And so I want to thank Anne, and I think after you get your first bite, you'll be thanking Anne too. Are you ready to get started? Let's go! First, take this list of tools with you along with a baking sheet and make one trip around the kitchen to gather everything on the list. This way, everything is ready and waiting at your fingertips. You'll see one of the items is a 1¼ inch scooper. It's a nice way to get a consistent size to your cookies when you're scooping them out, but 2 teaspoons will do the trick if you don't have a scooper. Now take the list of ingredients with you along with the cookie sheet and gather all the ingredients on the list. You'll see the butter needs to be softened. If it's straight out of the refrigerator or freezer, leave it in the wrapper, pop it in the microwave for 5 seconds, give it a roll, and repeat until it's softened, possibly even 3-second increments to keep it from melting. Once it's softened, you can put it in the electric mixer bowl and let it sit while we're getting everything else ready. You'll also need a room temperature egg. If your egg is cold, place it in a bowl of warm, not hot water. We don't want to cook it, and let it sit for a few minutes. If the water cools down, replace it with some more warm water, and after about 10 or 15 minutes, you should have a room temperature egg. Line your cookie sheets with parchment paper if you have it. Preheat the oven to 375 degrees. And now, scoop out 5 tablespoons of gluten-free flour and add that to your small mixing bowl. Then add 1½ cups of gluten-free oats. Remember, oats are gluten-free on their own, but are often grown in the same fields and milled in the same mills as wheat. So to be sure that it's safe for you to eat, buy oats that are labeled gluten-free. Add 1/2 teaspoon of granulated salt, an 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda, and if you don't have an 1/8 teaspoon measure, just eyeball a 1/2 quarter. Do the same with the xanthan gum, and then use your fork to stir the dry ingredients together. We'll need a 1/2 egg, and you'll see that 1 large egg is 4 tablespoons. So beat up the egg until the white and the yolk are nicely combined. Now use a tablespoon to spoon out 2 tablespoons of egg. You'll notice the egg doesn't quite like to sit on the spoon, so it's okay to just approximate 2 tablespoons of egg. Now add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of water, and use your fork to beat the mixture together. Now to the butter add 1/2 cup of brown or coconut sugar, a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. Set your mixer to low speed and begin creaming. Once the butter has started to break up a little bit and absorb the sugar, you'll probably need to use your rubber spatula to pull the butter off of the mixer attachment. Then set the mixer to high speed and start creaming again. It'll be done when the butter and sugar are completely combined and the dough has started to pull away from the bottom of the bowl. Now add the egg mixture and set the mixer to high speed and mix until it's turned glossy and smooth, just like this. Then add all of the dry ingredients. Set the mixer to low speed and start mixing to get the dry ingredients just moistened. Now scrape down the sides of the bowl and the mixer attachment. And now, as Ann told me, we're going to beat the tar out of it. So set the mixer to high speed and let it go for a full 1.5 to 2 minutes until it turns creamy. It's not like your typical stiff cookie dough. Then add 1¼ cups of chocolate chips and stir until the chips are evenly distributed through the cookie dough. Then use your scooper or 2 spoons to drop about a tablespoon's worth of dough onto the pan, leaving lots of space in between. These cookies do spread a lot while they're baking. Just work the dough between the 2 spoons, drop it onto the pan, and then if you like them round, just kind of shape them with the 2 spoons. I put about 8 cookies per sheet. Place the pans in the oven and set the timer to 9 minutes. Depending on the weight of your cookie sheets and the heat of your oven, your baking time might vary greatly from mine. If you've got heavy cookie sheets, 9 minutes should about do the trick. But if you think your oven runs a little bit on the cool side, don't be afraid to raise the temperature a few degrees. These cookies do need to bake at a higher temperature, otherwise they'll melt before they set. Keep a close eye on them because they do go from brown to burned pretty quickly. This is what they should look like when they're done. A deep golden brown and thin. Pull the parchment paper right off of the cookie sheet onto the cooling rack, and after about 10 or 15 minutes, you can pull the cookies off of the paper and cool the rest of the way on the rack. Then devour. I hope you enjoy them. You can find this recipe and others on my website at chefjanetkay.com. Thank you so much for joining me.